Well, it was really disappointing watching that debate on generational change between Steve Grumbine, who is anti-UBI all the way, and Tom Lung, who is pro-UBI, but open to UBI and a federal jobs guarantee. Several things. The federal jobs guarantee doesn't help everybody, and it's ableist as fuck. The promoters of the federal jobs guarantee say, well, we've got these means-tested programs for people who can't work. The problem is that those means-tested programs like SSI, SSDI, what have you, exclude 76% of disabled applicants, even on appeal. And the asset caps and income caps with those programs are so ridiculously low that you can't even have enough in total assets equal to the street value of a used car that's not drivable, that is tits up, parked in your fucking driveway, or you're deemed as too rich for a disability benefit, right? Which is not enough to live on in any of the 50 states, not including Washington, D.C. And yet, there's so much that could have been debated that wasn't brought up. Steve Grumbine talks about, how wonderful this federal jobs guarantee is because it would socially include people who are involuntarily unemployed. Okay. And his supporters were basically, running rampant in the comments section. They basically marauded in there, saying about how, UBI is just this evil libertarian plot and only the federal jobs guarantee is good for the poor and that will make the poor feel socially included. Well, I would like to challenge that and say, well, why is it that the rich who don't have jobs don't need to participate in a menial workfare 2.0 jobs program in order to feel socially included? Why is that? And another thing that I would have liked to have asked is, why is UBI off the table in lieu of conditional programs that have been proven over and over again to fail those that they were supposed to help? I mean, one of the things that I'd like to raise is the fact that with UBI, there's no need to guarantee a, jobs program because people will naturally refuse jobs that are beneath them, that they don't want to do for whatever reason. And that opens those jobs up for people who do want to do them. The one thing that the UBI does that the federal jobs guarantee does not do is the UBI does not predicate your right to survive on whether or not you have a job or whether or not you're able to meet the criteria set by gatekeepers and bureaucrats to get an SSI or SSDI benefit. That's not even enough to live on anyway. Some of the most ridiculous arguments that Grumbine supporters were flooding the comments section with include, things like that $2,000 a month is nothing or is not enough. you must be really hella privileged if $2,000 a month income is nothing. A lot of people don't even make that cobbling together 3 jobs or gig work gigs. I mean that is the height of entitlement right there. To feel that you are entitled to dictate to those who are not wealthy, you have to take a menial job if you want income to survive. If you want income to survive. Now, one of the things that was not brought up was the fact that the very jobs guarantee that Steve Grumbine was talking about, taken from Stephanie Kelton, who was an acolyte of Randall Wray and Hyman Minsky and Warren Mosler. These are the creators of modern monetary theory. Macroeconomics, modern monetary theory. All right. One of the things that Steve was not honest about is that in their papers, in their scholarship papers, in their own words, these people, Randall Wray, Warren Mosler, Stephanie Kelton, all agreed that the federal jobs guarantee would make unemployment benefits redundant. It would make a lot of social programs for the poor redundant, and yet the same people, in this camp are the ones who accuse UBI advocates of trying to usher in an evil libertarian tech bro Trojan horse that's gonna decimate working class people's worker rights and destroy safety net programs. I mean, you can't make this shit up, man. You just can't. And I would like to share with you, I'll share with you these, what the hell with it. I'm going to share the resources. I'm going to share my resources. Let's see. Okay. All right. This is from the Levy Institute. And this was a paper by Randall Wray. All right. This is where Steve Grumbine gets his stuff from. Okay. And this is available for free. You can download it and read it at your leisure. And he refers to this as a price anchor, and what it really is that it's a workfare program that is not designed to allow workers who already have jobs to increase their bargaining power, because the federal jobs guarantee program, as he envisioned it, and as his forebears, like the founder of the Levy Institute, Warren Mosler, who's a retired billionaire hedge fund manager, what they envisioned is something that would make sure that the federal jobs guarantee could not be used as a bargaining chip for other people who don't like their jobs in the private sector to be able to bargain for better wages. It also doesn't help people in domestic violence situations, by the way, whereas UBI does that. UBI is basically your, get the hell out of Dodge money. But a lot of these points in these papers, say that this is what we should do for poverty, that the government should be the employer of the last resort. Except the jobs are kind of like workfare jobs. They're not jobs that people from the private sector are going to be vying for. And there has been no pilots tested in the United States, as there have been with UBI. There have been plenty of UBI pilot programs, and the data is coming in from those. It's all very, very good so far, but nothing on this federal jobs guarantee, on the efficacy of that. Now, the way they're selling it is that that it would be set at a bare minimal amount of money that is required to live in dignity in the United States. Okay, well, that's what UBI was set to. That this is what you would need to not be in deep poverty, right? And the jobs guarantee program supposedly tailors the job to you. Now, I don't know how this is going to work if you live in a rural area and you don't have a car and you don't have transportation. Okay? But, basically there's no choice for getting any money to live outside of this federal jobs guarantee if you don't want to participate in it or can't participate in it for whatever reason that you won't be covered under SSI or SSDI for, such as maybe wanting to, continue trying to get your own self-employment venture off the ground that you've already, dedicated a lot of blood, sweat, equity, tears, and your own money into, and that requires a lot of time and work to get that off the ground, right? And what they want to do here is say, no. You want an income to live. You're not even going to get an unemployment check. Right here, they say, they want to replace unemployment benefits with government employment, right? And yet the jobs will not be ones that springboard into better jobs. There's no raise with the FJG jobs. None of that. And none of that was raised. None of this was raised by, the UBI side because, unfortunately, I think Tom Lung's a really hell of a nice guy. I really like him. But he hasn't, I don't think, had the time to really dig into researching this as I have. I used to be very much firmly in the Bernie camp, and this is what the Bernie camp was, all for. Okay, they were all for this, and against UBI. They didn't even want to talk about the possibility of doing both. They were strictly just this federal jobs guarantee, right? And they weren't willing to talk about, doing both. So coming from that camp, when I became very interested and very supportive of Andrew Yang during his candidacy for the Democratic ticket for the U.S. presidency, I got to learn a heck of a lot about UBI, and I got my eyes open to a lot of the flaws that was being promoted with the federal jobs guarantee. And once I started to smell smoke, I knew there was fire. So I wanted to dig and find out. And what I found was this. And I hope everybody can see the link right up here. It is levyinstitute.org/pubs/WP213.pdf. You can download this and you can read it and weep for yourself. But it's basically a long screed that amounts to contempt for the poor. It is nothing but workfare 2.0 gussied up in pretty ribbons and bows and wrapping paper. But you know what, folks? You can't polish a turd. You gift wrap a pile of shit, it's still a pile of shit. And that's what this is. It's not intended on liberating people from poverty. It's about controlling the poor. Don't give any money to the poor unless they are doing what these people with extreme privilege feel they should be doing. And yet the first words out of their mouths whenever they debate pro-UBI folks, like on Twitter, the first words out of their mouths is, giving UBI is just going to give more money to rich people for them to buy yachts, and it's going to increase wealth inequality. I would be really embarrassed to do that kind of bad math in public. The person who has no income, let's say for sake of argument, UBI is $1,000. All right. The person with zero income is getting $1,000 a month. The millionaire is getting $1,000 a month. So the wealth inequality shrank considerably when you consider the taxes that the millionaire guy or gal is going to pay on their income. And, that $1,000 a month isn't going to mean, bupkis to them, between the, enormous difference that UBI is going to make in that destitute person's life. I'd say the UBI actually shrinks the wealth gap. Now, of course, I just picked that number as an arbitrary number because that was initially what was being proposed 2 years ago, and then COVID hit. Since then, that's been revised. However, there are several problems with the arguments that are always put forward by those who are pro-federal jobs guarantee only, as in anti-UBI. And one of the things is that, they say is that, it's not going to help the poor. The poor need jobs in order to feel valued and be socially included. Well, I would like to ask the question of why the hell somebody needs a job sweeping streets, wiping other people's kids' butts, or cleaning toilets for the privileged in order to feel socially included. We don't demand trust fund babies who don't have to work, and many who don't work, to do that, and they don't feel socially excluded. Why is this only aimed at the poor? Ask yourself that. Ask these guys that. I have, and these are the questions we should be asking. And if this is really all about concern for the poor, okay, let's talk about the fact that they want to, say no to UBI and yes to the same means tested programs like SSI and SSDI, which have proven time and time again to be an epic fail. An epic fail because they exclude 76% of the disabled applicants who apply. And the appeals process is so long and protracted that, it can take up to 7 years, to win your appeal. And that's with a lawyer. And then, of course, your pro bono lawyer automatically gets a third of your back due SSI or SSDI award. All right. You can't make this up. I'm really sorry that Scott Santens was not on that show in Tom Lung's stay to debate Mr. Grumbine. For that matter, I'm sorry that I wasn't. Because I happen to know where a lot of these skeletons are buried with these guys. Um, they talk about the federal jobs guarantee as if it's the only reasonable, viable way to help the poor and provide a social floor, when it's not. In fact, the level of bureaucracy would make it a logistics nightmare to implement in many regions of the country. Going back to when the COVID pandemic began, we were all caught like deer in the headlights. There wasn't a whole hell of a lot of time to respond with jack or squat. Okay? There just wasn't. And as imperfect as the CARES Act was, it was cobbled together rather quickly and got money directly to people. Was it flawed? Yes, because of conditions, because of gatekeeping. There was a lot of people, gig workers, who were cheated out of and deprived of that to which they were entitled to under the CARES Act, and they didn't get. But for the ones who did get, for those who did get, that PUA benefit, okay, was the difference between remaining housed or not. It was a difference between utilities being shut off or not. It was a difference between, your vehicle being that you need to even get to a job or function in this society, getting repossessed or not. It made a world of difference. It made a world of difference. And as it is, enough people there, it didn't go far. It didn't help enough people because of the gatekeeping on the state level, where every state was allowed to set their own criteria. With a jobs guarantee, being able to react in time to absorb a sudden deluge of people being thrown out of work. And that includes people that are also small business owners who work at their own small businesses, but who don't receive a paycheck because they only maybe just started their business right before COVID hit, right? And a lot of them didn't get money. Bigger businesses got money, but a lot of small businesses whom this program was supposed to help were left, with wish in one hand and shit in the other. And I'll give you 3 guesses which hand got filled up first. Okay? All right. So, if the money would have been universal and not excluded anyone, there would have been a lot less small businesses that would have had to shutter permanently. There would have been a lot less permanently lost jobs. There would have been a lot less evictions that occurred in spite of the moratorium. The federal jobs guarantee, we don't even have the infrastructure for that to be set up, nor would the bureaucracy of something like that to be able to take into account the needs and special circumstances of every individual unemployed job seeker everywhere in the country, to take into account their restrictions or what kind of job they'd be a good fit for, or what have you, to be able to react, to quick throw together enough jobs to absorb all these people. The math doesn't work. But one of the most disgusting things that I felt was the utter ableist and classist and specious arguments from commenters who are from Grumbine's camp, who are anti-UBI and strictly federal job guarantee only, accusing people who support UBI of being economically illiterate, of smearing the poor who support UBI as being uneducated and stupid. Claiming that UBI is somehow going to precipitate some kind of economic catastrophe. I'll tell you what's precipitated an economic catastrophe. It was the lack of a social floor through which no one can fall when COVID hit. That was the catastrophe. That was it. You know, we had 9 million people that were left out of PUA that should have been included and that weren't. Some ended up dying while homeless in their cars. And all the workers that happened to, coincidentally, were all older workers in their 40s and 50s and early 60s, not yet, old enough to retire, not able to afford to retire, and the anti-UBI faction of the federal jobs guarantee camp, they want to insist on means-tested programs that keep a lot of people shut out, that implement asset and income caps, that set the disabled aside as the one class of people that shouldn't be allowed to ever better their lot in life and improve their situation outside of the fully abled with good jobs feel entitled to dictate down to them. And, I really have a problem with that. I also have a problem with the bad math being employed, because one of the other arguments that was raised by commenters in the section on to that show was that UBI is inflationary. That only the federal jobs guarantee is the only solution that won't cause inflation. Well, I got news for you. When you are talking about having to, the government having to, jack up the debt to print boatload, to introduce boatloads of money into the system at the stroke of a key on a computer keyboard, okay, to pay for this, to pay for such an overreaching bureaucracy to make sure that, everybody everywhere who doesn't have an income, who wants a job, can get one that's suited for them, even if they're disabled, even if they're over age 50, even if they don't have a car and they live in a rural area. All right. But the bureaucracy entailed for that, making sure that this is carried out is going to cost a lot, right? A lot more than just giving money to people and letting people sort out their own lives, teach themselves new skills, turn a hobby into a source of earning revenue. I mean, I like to write. I'm putting together a profile on Fiverr because I do some pretty serious, research. I've actually had a guy who got his PhD and cited my book on poverty and classism, titled Classism for Dimwits, cited my book several times in his doctoral dissertation. So, I'm pretty good with source citing and using, correctly using charts and data and all sorts of other things, and Bayes' theorem and the paradox of Monty Hall paradox and conditional probability and whatnot. But I'm not gonna kill anybody's brains with advanced level math. Not from the FJG camp. But I will say this. When they say that the government, as a sovereign issuer of the coin of our currency, of our fiat currency, can pay for this overreaching program, that's true. But what the hell happens when the US dollar is no longer the world reserve currency for international trade? And its value starts to... Now you've got all these obligations, but a weak dollar a weak dollar is not a good foundation for building a guaranteed jobs program on. I wouldn't think. I mean, if somebody would like to show me how the math on that would work, please, by all means, bring me the data. Show me the run on the numbers under different situations of declining currency value. I would love to see that. You know, if you think the federal jobs guarantee, which, you know, requires a tremendous size bureaucracy that's going to cost a hell of a lot to administer, okay? Because those people aren't going to be getting minimum wage to administer that. Not gatekeepers and bureaucrats, no. You know, because some workers, I guess, are just more valuable than others. What can I say? Anyway, I'm going to leave off of this for now and holler back. I'm still trying to calm down from being really disappointed with that show. It just wasn't even a legit debate.